Welcome to this edition of the 700 Club. In case you missed it, it's tax day, the deadline to file those complicated forms. President Trump is promising that taxes will be much easier to deal with in the future because of Republican tax reform law.
Well, the president also said the law is strengthening the economy and helping businesses. Charlene Aaron has the story.
Speaking to a group of Hispanics in Florida one day before the tax return filing deadline, the president promised that once the new tax law is fully implemented, filing a federal return in the future will be a lot less complicated.
And remember this is the last time you're going to fill up that long, complicated, horrible return. Next year, it's going to be a simple, for the most part, one page. It may get a little bit bigger, but it'll be simple and easy to do. And very importantly, you're going to have a lot of money left over from what you have.
And he says the new tax law also provided a big boost to American businesses by cutting their tax rates.
They were the highest in the world from a business standpoint. That's why businesses were leaving. Now, they're not the lowest, but they're on the low side, and businesses are pouring back into the United States, and that means jobs.
Republicans are planning to use the tax cuts during this fall's midterm elections. According to USA Today, GOP candidates have run nearly 18,000 ads highlighting the tax reform. Democrats are still criticizing the tax law as a giveaway to the rich, and the president warns against electing Democrats, saying they want to repeal the GOP's tax plan.
And let me tell you, if for any reason they get in, meaning the Democrats, they're going to raise your taxes way up high, they're going to terminate this out, of course I'll veto it.
And the president also promoted the tax cut law in an editorial in today's USA Today, saying on this tax day, America is strong and roaring back. Paychecks are climbing. Tax rates are going down. Businesses are investing in our great country. And most important, the American people are winning. Charlene Aaron, CBN News.
Well, it's a great move for the taxpayers of America to get it down. I remember talking to the head of the Ways and Means Committee. He said, I want to get the thing on a postcard. You can fill out a postcard and send it in. That's where we'll go. Well, in other news, President Trump's personal attorney lost a key decision in federal court. Judge Kimball Woods ruled that, well, here's John Jessup with that story.
Well, Pat, a federal judge rejected a move by Michael Cohen and President Trump to prevent federal prosecutors from going through the materials the FBI seized from Cohen last week. Cohen's lawyers had asked for a temporary restraining order so they could review the information themselves and then turn over the material that wasn't privileged. President Trump's allies reportedly are concerned about Cohen's seized materials because they don't know what's in them. And some are worried that Cohen might strike a deal with prosecutors to protect himself. The judge also forced Cohen to reveal Monday that one of his clients is TV and radio host Sean Hannity. But Hannity said that he never paid Cohen for any services, adding he only had brief discussions with him about legal questions. Well, the American pastor on trial for his faith in Turkey is being sent back to prison as his trial continues on May 7th. Pastor Andrew Brunson pleaded his case before a judge Monday. After hours of witness testimony, the judge refused to free the 50-year-old evangelical preacher. Instead, he's being sent to an even worse prison, notorious for its harsh conditions. Brunson stands accused of playing a role in Turkey's 2016 attempted coup and for committing acts of terror by spreading the gospel. Sam Brownback, the U.S. ambassador at large for international religious freedom, was at the hearing. He told reporters the U.S. won't stop fighting for the pastor's freedom.
The administration is deeply concerned about this case. We completely believe factually he is innocent. Andrew Brunson is innocent. We're hopeful that the judicial system will find that he will be released and released soon.
Jay Sekulow, of the American Center for Law and Justice, called the judge's action, quote, disturbing. More than 500,000 people have signed the ACLJ's petition calling for Brunson's release, and you can find a link to that petition on cbnnews.com. And Pat, Brunson's attorney said he faces 35 years in prison for charges that are totally unfounded.
This is, you know, the Wall Street Journal's got a little thing about he's Erdogan's prisoner. The whole thing is a put-up job. And Turkey is supposed to be an honored part of in our NATO alliance. But Erdogan is setting up a Muslim dictatorship He wants to have sole rule, and he's talking about some he's some cleric in Pennsylvania that he claims is fomenting a rebellion against him, which is just utterly nonsense. And we're not going to extradite that guy to Turkey. No way. But the thing is, we've got to get tough with Turkey. I mean, we can't have this going on. And they're no longer a valuable part of our alliance against Russia. You don't know where they're going, but you look at biblical prophecy, I'll tell you where they're going. It's not favorable to the cause of freedom. But nevertheless, it's time we get tough with him. And, you know, a lot of times you say, well, it's terrible, isn't that awful? And we deplore his action, and you go through all that rhetoric, and it doesn't move the needle one iota. But then you start laying sanctions on them, and you start taking away trade benefits, and you start putting some of their rich people in jail. And the next thing you know, they say, okay, we'll behave. We hope that's going to be the case. John?
Well, Pat, a trial begins today for an Oregon judge who believes that this case is actually centers on the exercise of Christian beliefs. Jennifer Wishon talked to the judge about his day in court, where he expects God to shine.
Today, Judge Vance Day will enter the Oregon courtroom where he used to preside. But instead of sitting on the bench, he'll take a seat in the criminal defendant's chair. He's charged with aiding and abetting a felon in possession of a firearm. But Judge Day believes he's being targeted because of his unwillingness to perform gay marriages.
I think this whole ordeal started when I made my original decision to quietly recuse myself from same-sex marriage. In Oregon, it's not a requirement that a circuit court judge marry anybody. But when the law changed, I had a decision to make. And that decision was to gently, quietly recuse myself. And that eventually started a bit of a firestorm.
A firestorm that's lasted more than 3.5 years and racked up legal bills just shy of $1 million. The state of Oregon is trying to prove Day helped a disabled Navy SEAL in his Veterans Court possess a firearm, a charge Day says is punishment for his biblical views on marriage.
In the dead of winter, his only source of heat, which was a pellet stove, failed. So our team talked about it, and I'm a handy guy, so I said my son is going to be heading out there that weekend because my son had a relationship with him and was helping him get to various appointments because he lived far out and didn't have a driver's license because he was sentenced for a DUI. So we went out there on a Sunday, brought him some food, and I went to work on the pellet stove. And most folks who may be familiar with the story understand that my son, unbeknownst to me, went out to his truck and got a handgun that he wanted to show the Navy SEAL. So the Navy SEAL picked it up, and he's a felon, so he shouldn't have been handling that gun, and I was in the room. And that's how I got charged with aiding and abetting a felon in possession of a firearm.
He encourages all Americans to stand up whenever government challenges their liberty of conscience.
When we have his perspective, a trial is an opportunity to walk with him and watch him show up in glory and majesty. And I don't want to miss that.
Judge Day expects his jury trial to last at least 2 weeks. Jennifer Wishon, CBN News.
Thanks, Jennifer. Pat, he seems pretty confident about his trial.
Well, we hope so, but isn't this an outrage? A judge tries to help a disabled American veteran, a former Navy SEAL, try to give him a hand, fix up his pellet stove. I mean, and the next thing you know, they charge the judge with aiding, abetting a felon in relation to a firearm. That is utter nonsense. Doesn't it make you sick? You know, we want to uphold the rule of law. We really want that to be the case. But they've got to stop the nonsense that goes on in these courtrooms. And I've seen some things that will turn your stomach. And I've seen rulings that are just outrageous. And we look at all the time. And what we have seen over the last decades is court-run or judge-run legal system that perverts the Constitution and takes away the freedom of religion that most people would like to enjoy. And now we're seeing the FBI doing their thing, and it's kind of sickening to see this former head of the FBI ranting and raving around the country on his book tour. But in any event, this is a great country, and we'll survive all of it. But I think you should pray for that judge, and you should pray for others who are under persecution here in this great land of ours. Well, we've been talking to you, you know, about asteroids, and it seems like to me the thing that will fulfill biblical prophecy, and there is some very strong biblical prophecy. I wrote a book called The End of the Age, which is rather popular, but it dealt with an asteroid hitting the Earth. Well, John has a story about one that took place on Sunday.
That's right, Pat. An asteroid flew close to the Earth Sunday, only about 120,000 miles away. That's about half the distance to the moon. It passed by less than 24 hours after it was first spotted. Many astronomers, many asteroids can be very difficult to track, so astronomers called this one a surprise flyby. The space rock was about the size of a football field, far larger than the object that blew up over Russia in February 2013. NASA says those as big as the one that flew by on Sunday don't happen very often. They approach the Earth maybe once or twice a year. Pat?
Well, you wonder what happened to the dinosaurs. Well, apparently it was an asteroid strike that killed them. So they call these things extinctors, and they have the power. You know, the one in my book was 0.6 of a mile. I don't know about a football field. What's 100 yards or something?
Mm-hmm.
Huh?
100 yards.
100
right.
yards. But that's how big that one was. Mine was half a mile, and it did an amazing amount of damage. The one that killed the dinosaurs was probably a lot bigger than that. It left a big hole. You go down to the Caribbean, and there's this great hole that was caused by that particular asteroid. But they've been hitting this planet for hundreds and hundreds of millions of years. And we're very grateful for Jupiter, because Jupiter's there that sucks these things, you know, away from the orbit of the sun and pulls them into its orbit rather than letting it go to Earth. But anyhow,
Interesting.
it is interesting.
May Jupiter never nap.
Well, it's something that we cannot, I mean, this one nobody really saw. The thing that, Terry, that you see what Jesus said, except those days would be shortened, there'll be no flesh living on the earth. That's what Jesus said. And the only thing that'll do that, you've either got Yellowstone blowing up and sending an ash cloud all over the earth, or you've got one of these asteroids hitting, and that would fulfill what he had to say.